Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Prime Take. Today we are having a conversation with Dr. Prince Pambo, someone who is a medical expert. He's worked with CAF, he's worked with the Ghana Football Association as the team doctor of the Black Stars. Currently, he's served in various capacities when it comes to football within different federations, both at CAF and at FIFA. And many of us have heard of his work, but how did he get to the point that we all know him to be someone who provides medical care for the sportsmen and women that we see out there? Because it is only their health that gives them an opportunity to be able to be on the pitch and give us the passion that they have and bring the smiles that we get on our faces. Dr. Prince Pambo, my guest on Prime Take. Doc, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
Very well.
It's been a while.
Yes. Merry Christmas in advance.
Thanks very much for your time. We are grateful that you give an opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
We've heard of Dr. Prince Pambo, what you do for sportsmen and women, but many of us barely have an idea about the kind of person Dr. Prince Pambo is, how he started and how he got here.
Right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to dig into my life, if I should put it. So, like you rightly said, what everybody knows is the products we put out there, but what created the product. So, Dr. Prince Pambo did not start as Dr. Prince Pambo, probably started as Kofi, which is the name I'll be called at home. Okay. I am the last of 8 children. Okay. So my mom and dad had 9 of us, and I happen to be the last. So if I am an Akan, then they would say Nkrumah. But I come from the northern part of the country, 100% northerner, from the Boli Bamboy constituency. Oh, okay. So that puts me in the new Savannah region. Okay. Now, born in Sunyani, so I grew up a bit in Sunyani and continued education, the typical Saito education in my village up north. And so I lost 2 siblings. Jama.
Jama, okay.
J-A-M-A, yeah. Not German. So it's around the Bui Dam enclave, okay. You know, so we are caught in between Gonjal and the Banda, that side of town. A very kind of hybrid ethnic group called Mo. Yes, so I have 6 sisters. I lost 1 brother and a sister. So that's who I am. Started my basic education from the village, like I said, and then moved on to Tamale, where I had my secondary education. I didn't attend secondary school, actually. I attended a minor seminary. Okay. All boys were being trained to become Roman fathers. So I attended St. Charles Minor Seminary. Okay. So there are quite a number of people around, I'm sure, who would identify with St. Charles. Yeah. A very small school.
But very, very famous, actually.
Yes. I think my class, almost all the science students in my class, apart from those who went and became Roman fathers, the rest are doctors and engineers. Okay. So, yes, I'm in quite a good school. So I moved from the minor seminary. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the major seminary to become a Roman father because my dad had only 1 son, which is me. Oh, okay. So, and he was a king. So, if I became a Roman father, that
the lineage is gone.
And I'm not sure I regret not being a Roman father. I'm happy where I am. So I moved from there to KNUST. Our time, the K and then N were not there. It was UST, where I did my degree in human biology and then progressed to do the MBCHB, which is the medical school. So I attended, had my basic medical training with KNUST. Completed, did MO-ship there. Life was leading me towards trauma emergency, you know, that was how I was looking at it. I mean, sports medicine wasn't part of the consideration. So, but of course, even pre-university, family wanted me to do pharmacy, I wanted to do medicine. family wanted me to attend Legon. I wanted to attend KNUST. So it was a whole mix-up, you know, but then I pulled through medical school. Then, along the line, an interest in sports medicine just popped up, just like that, and I got an opportunity to get a national scholarship to go train, because we don't train sports physicians in Ghana my time. So I then had my sports medicine training with the University of Nottingham, UK.
Okay.
And then, so really that set me on this journey, because there I met great people who were medical officers for FIFA, and then I came back to this country somewhere 2011, and then I came with a FIFA project called the FIFA 11 for Health. So we use football to train children in schools and also to pass on health messages, because FIFA identified the power of football, and then they realized that if you attached a message to a football technique, kids never forgot it. So we used that tool, and we ran a very good project here in quite a number of schools. So basically, yes, this has been my journey so far. Married some almost 20 years ago to one wife. And
you have to emphasize that.
Yes. I'm a northerner, and people believe we are capable, or we are allowed to have more than one.
Especially also being a prince.
Being a prince, yes. But then learning from my own dad, who is late now, though he was a king, he had one wife.
Oh, okay.
So I don't even have step siblings. So all 9 with one woman. So I couldn't do it differently. So maybe an assurance to my wife that it will forever be one wife.
Yeah.
and no,
she's gotten the message.
No side issues, and blessed with 3 lovely daughters at the moment. So yes, this has been my life journey.
And as a prince growing up, what kind of treatment did you get?
So I think my prince was a proper prince, to be honest. I grew up in a village, but really not hardship. You know, normally when people describe, oh, so I had attended Saito, I attended a school, a village in the north, then the only thing that comes to mind is that, okay, so I walked barefooted at some point, I had a torn pants and all that. I think when people want to raise funds, they throw in these cards, you know, but I mean, my village upbringing, I'm sure was better than Accra upbringing. I mean, the son of the king, so with sisters all over the place. So really, I didn't get to suffer, and it was quite. I mean, I grew up in a palace, so I didn't have to lift a thing, and unfortunately, that's making me struggle because I can't cook.
Oh.
But my sisters will do everything
for you,
including washing your things.
Your stuff.
So I think the positive aspect of that is it put me at that level that I needed to work hard to make sure that I can afford that comfortable life that I know. You know, so okay, now your sisters are not there to wash your things. What do? You don't marry somebody's daughter and ask her to wash your things. They should be able to buy a washing machine early in life. You should, you know, those basic things. So that has been it, really. Yeah.
Okay.
That upbringing was a good one. Yeah,
I get it. But is that how the name Prince came about, or you had a different name? Or?
No. So like I said, last born, when my dad gave birth to me, he was a king. So
you were just named Prince.
Yes, this is a prince.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a title, it's a name.
It's a title, and it is a name as well. You spoke about sports medicine, and that's the area that many of us know you.
Yes.
And you also spoke about how you came back in 2011, and you spoke about the project that you came back to Ghana with. How would you describe that project? It
was very successful. I mean, it was one of the flagship programs under Sepp Blatter and Professor Yeji Vorak, who was leading football medicine as at the time with FIFA. And of course, when Blatter had to go, and then quite a number of his top officials had to also bow out just because of loyalty, you know. But we ran that program here from 2012, I think, all the way to 2016. And we've been to every region in this country. We trained a lot of teachers, and then we used those teachers to train these school children. And up to date, I mean, if you met some of those teachers and the children who went through it, they still remember the messages. We're teaching them things like respect the girl child, respect your classmate, wash your hands before eating, and then we threw in things around protection and all that. And we linked them to football skills like heading, dribbling, defense.
I remember the heading and all that.
Exactly, you know, so it was quite okay. And of course, it was a kind of a corporate social responsibility thing, fully sponsored by FIFA, using the FA. So we use PE teachers who were also kind of football inclined, and we use some of the GFA development coaches. So we actually worked hand in hand with the technical department of the FA. Yes,
which was headed by Otia Kenten.
Otia Kenten, yes. So that was quite a good one. And of course, I mean, one of the educational bits I left, I was somewhere 2015-16. Then I developed an interest in the area of sports cardiology, issues to do with sudden cardiac death. I mean, how come Black African players were dropping dead more than our Caucasian brothers and all that? So I did a proposal. Again, I got full scholarship from Ghana Education Trust Fund and FIFA and GFA to do a PhD in sports cardiology. So this was a collaboration between myself and my colleagues in Germany, Saarbrücken. So my supervisors were the national team doctors for the German national team, Professor Tim Meyer and Jürgen Schahag. Tim Meyer was the senior doctor for the senior side, the German male national team. Schahag was for the under 21. As at the time, I was the team doctor for Ghana under 20.
Exactly.
So we did that collaboration where we did ECGs and echoes of the hearts of our football players here, and then we compared it to the hearts of the Caucasian players in the West, and we saw great differences. So it's one of my huge interests at the moment, which has put me in one of the new FIFA consensus groups at the moment, involved in developing a consensus paper to guide the screening of adolescent football players when it comes to their pre-season training or pre-season screening or pre-competition screening, exactly what we should pick and the kind of questions we should ask. Currently, we are involved in that project, and I happen to be one of two doctors from Africa. I think we are globally anything around 10, 12 doctors working on this project, and it's of interest.
You mentioned the under 20 bit when you went to do the PhD in
Germany. Sports cardiology.
Sports cardiology. You're already working with the Ghana Football Association as a team doctor for under 20. At what point did you start working with the senior, with the national teams of the AFA?
So I think I started working with national teams from 2012.
Oh wow!
Yes. So I came in 2011 and was involved in these FIFA projects, and it was GFA collaboration and all that. So that I think sold me to the FA, and in 2012, you know, GFA, they would do their normal reshuffle. So I was a new entry, and then the then president and his executive committee told, I was quite young, I mean, really, but it gave the opportunity to start with under 20, and I think it was a very vibrant team. I mean, the under 20 had gone to conquer the world in 2009, and then Bobo was still the coach in 2012. And our first assignment was nice. Africa, we won the silver.
Yeah.
We played finals with Egypt and went to the world, and we won bronze in 2013 in Turkey.
Yeah.
2015, we were in New Zealand. I think we didn't impress so much, but it was a good time.
That was the tournament, Mali.
Exactly. I think we were very complacent as a team. Maybe. I mean, I'm not a technical person, but they were just too good for us. So.
But oftentimes, now I'll come back to the medical aspect. But oftentimes, when you're on the bench and Ghana is losing, how do you feel?
I don't know how to describe the feeling, but for we the medics, it's when the game is ongoing, you can't feel anything than to look out for injuries. Okay. So your mind is, okay, why is this player not working the way we want him to work? Why is he not able to run well? So you are thinking into the next game. You are thinking into what you will do after the game.
So you look at for performance.
Exactly. That's what you do. So really, I mean, I've been on a bench and players score goals and I don't get to know who scored the goal. Because at the time maybe the goal is happening, I'm actually looking at another player. All right. Or a player goes and 1-2. Okay, you go there. So you go in, see, and come out, but you are still thinking. Because mostly, I mean, 90% of the players will tell you, we can play. But you come by and say, can you really go? You know, and the coaches will be looking at you. It's funny because when they are playing and the coaches feel this guy should have this kind of speed, it's not going, then the coaches will turn and look at you a bit. You know, so they say, okay, does the guy have an injury that I didn't pick? You know what I mean? What's happening? Did he eat too much? You know, so those dynamics are there. So the typical fans are worried with the goals. Okay, we are losing. We get to mourn the losses after the match. You know, so I've heard comments. Sometimes you just enter the dressing room and say, so we've lost again? You know what I mean? That's when it dawns on you. Yeah, and you also get to know that, okay, you have a lot of work to do in the medical room post games. I mean, sometimes you work till 4 a.m. just to make sure that people are fair, especially if it's a tournament situation. All right, because at the end of the game, some players are injured. Now you are thinking of the scans you have to do, which players are going to be ruled out. Are you able to fix players within 48, 72 hours for the coach to use them? You know, so those are normally your preoccupation. The outcomes, of course, yes, you are interested because, of course, there is material benefits to that as well. Yes, so yeah, we feel the same thing any normal Ghanaian will feel.
But how challenging is it? You just mentioned something. The player is not putting up a certain speed and the coach will turn and look at you. You are taking responsibility for the performance of the player on the pitch.
That's what you signed for. You know, I mean, so the coach knows, and most good coaches would discuss maybe their lineups with you, not that I mean before, but then once they bring the players up, or you would have to, they would let them know. I mean, a day or two before, they'll ask, okay, is everybody fit? So, for instance, what we do currently, every morning, you would have a medical meeting with the coaches. So the coaching staff and the medical staff, every morning, sometimes 7 a.m., you normally will have a medical meeting where you have to brief them on all the medical happenings. So if you trained this evening, tonight we will work all night through in the medical room, and tomorrow morning we have to tell the coach that, okay, so after training yesterday, we saw these players, everybody's fine, and today 4 or 5 p.m., they are all available to train. Or 3 players cannot train, so we will do a bit of work on the sidelines, you know, so you have those discussions. So if it's a match day -1, -2, then the coaches will want to know, is every player available for me to pick my 11 and myself from? Then you say yes. All right, so you have signed that everybody's okay. And the coach knows that, okay, these guys here on the wings are supposed to be speedsters. Why are they not running well? Okay, did they have an injury that you are not aware? You understand what I mean? So once they finish, you go direct and ask.
Is it possible that a player can have an injury? we know players.
Yeah.
Player will be injured and tell the doctor, I can play. Play.
Yeah.
But is it possible for a player to have an injury and hide it away from?
So at the very top level, they don't do that. You know, they know what's at stake. You know, I mean, you know your performance as a player, and you know if you hide an injury, the performance will expose you. Like we hear, I mean, if the economy, whatever they found, I mean, if we know this is what you can do, so if you hide the injury, we'll see it. So at the top level, they don't do that. They will let you know this is what I have, but then I can do this. You know, so you would have to have that frank discussion with the player and the coach and say, okay, so this player is 70% fit. So it's up to the coach to decide that player A, 70% of player A is better than 100% of player B. So this is what I choose to do. Okay, or the role I'm going to get him to play. Ideally, if it was 100%, this is what I'll get him to do. But now he's 70, this is what I'll do. Okay, so I haven't come across a situation where a player is hiding an injury from me. I think what plays out is that if the players kind of have confidence in you and know that if I tell Dr. Pambo that I have an ATFL sprain, all right, he'll fix it. Then they'll tell you, unless of course they feel that if I tell this doctor this or this therapist this, he can't even help. Okay, but then if you know, I mean, this gentleman can give me $100,000. I mean, why would you hide your poverty? So really, that is what plays out.
Oh, that's quite an interesting one, because sometimes we are watching the game and we're wondering, he's not even chasing the ball.
Yeah. I mean, these are human beings, and things happen, and the body, there's an extent to which we can all understand. So sometimes maybe as a first, or some player will just tell you, so yeah, I mean, I'm doing everything. I'm probably not clicking. You can't say much, and there's always the psychological part of everything as well.
And this journey has brought you to the national team, the Black Stars. How would you describe that journey so far?
So my sports medicine journey or football medicine journey has been an interesting one. So for me, it started on 3 levels. All right. So it started with the fever level. So people typically will go from the base up. Okay, but then I came from the top, where I came in with a FIFA project. So I was already recognized as a doctor working with the federation, which is the governing body.
Yes.
You know, then I got into my association here. My association, BGFA, presented me to the Confederation African Football. All right, so I've been involved at these 3 levels. Okay, so for some major tournaments on the continent, like the AFCONs, like the CHANs, like the maybe U17s and all that, then I have to go and work for the Confederation of African Football as a venue medical officer and then a team doping control officer as well. So there, if you were in a venue, let's say Abidjan or Yamoussoukro, then all the 4 teams at that venue, the stadium there, it's your own. You have to make sure emergency medical services, everything is in place, the hospitals around, the entire medical setup, everything is fixed, and then you take charge of doping controls as well. So I've done all that. So at some point, I'm a team doctor sitting on the other side of the table. Another point, I'm the supervising doctor conducting the test. So it's been an interesting one. It's been rewarding. It's been challenging, as in positively challenging, because you need to do a lot of work to stay very significant and relevant in your industry.
What would you say has been the major challenge since you got to the senior national team level?
Okay, I'll even go to under 20. So I had one interesting challenge in under 20 where a player who was supposed to be a very good player, I mean, playing for, I think those times, Chelsea, under 20, good defender, I mean, checking all the right boxes. And then he was caught, you know, and I remember the first time he had to join camp, under 20 camp, this guy actually trained with the Black Stars because the Black Stars were also training.
I know him.
You know, then and there were quite some huge names following him, you know, and we were all very excited that this person was coming to play for us, you know. And I remember after that training, I was at
this was part of the 2015 under 20.
Yes, I kind of also watched him a bit. So right after the training, he came over, and I saw that his knee was swollen, you know. So the coaches will give their technical input. Oh yeah, he's this, but this guy has a knee problem, you know. And it will be difficult to communicate this because this was supposed to be the pillar for us. When we're traveling out of country, I said, okay, he should sit by me in the plane. You know, I needed to have conversations, you know. He was quite tall, you know.
He's Pambo, I know him.
Yes, then it was still difficult for him. We played a few friendly matches, you know. So I called him and said, you know what, I need to get your medical documentation from your club for us to discuss X, Y. You know, those times, I mean, names were already submitted, final list, you know. I got information from the club, and this guy had done a couple of surgeries on the knee, you know. So my decision as a doctor was that yes, it's going to be dangerous to have him as part of the team because he was going to take the slot where a very powerful player could occupy, but because he had a big name, you know. So I said, okay, I mean, from my medical point, this guy cannot. Then, okay, my big people come, okay, we've submitted the name already. So I went into FIFA books. I said, okay, there's a medical reason you can change a player. So I shot out an email to FIFA and said, okay, we want to change a player. All right, and you need to support with medical documentation. Now I got the medical documents from the players' club. I needed the players' consent to send out these documents. But then you are sending it out to take him out of squad. How are you going to manage it? You know, but I still spoke to the player. I say, you know what, we're trying to do something to protect you. So I'm sending this information to FIFA so that we'll all monitor you and see how best we can help. And he said, yes. So then the next day, we were successful to change him. Then it became a media war. I mean, the guy is playing well, and Dr. Pambo decided to change him.
In fact, they even said bribery and what.
Exactly. And this is a case, the guy himself will say, I'm not injured. Because as at the time...
He actually went and tweeted that he was not injured.
Exactly, you know. But then that's the difficulty, because as a doctor, you are not permitted to also slap media platforms with the player's medical information you had. So I had to tell him that, but I have all this information, why are you saying this? You know, so for me, that was quite a moment, you know, but then I stuck to it knowing I was doing something right. Fast forward to national team, I think a build up to the World Cup, there were players you would expect to be able to come along and all that. Then injuries started happening to players. Injuries. So that for me, it's always a very difficult one, you know, to communicate to your coach that not you player A can do, but unfortunately player A cannot play. You know, those decisions, and sometimes you have to weigh the options. Okay, so should I can he be part of the team for me to try and see if he would get better and play? You know, and those are the risks I don't take as a doctor, in the sense that I feel if you've given me a list of 40 players, then you are telling me they can all play. So if one is injured, I will not risk it. I'll say, look, he's injured. I can't guarantee you that if I took him for a tournament or a game, I'll turn things around. What if it doesn't happen? Then it's you, the doctor, who took an injured.
That responsibility.
Yes. So
because I remember we've had similar experiences where players were taken to a tournament, they couldn't kick a single ball. I remember, was there Anthony Annan? There was
exactly.
They went to the 2013 AFCON because they were hopeful that along the line they will be fit to play.
That's right. And it always happens when these players are at their peak. You know, so what helps me is because I have interest when it comes to the technical aspect of football. Really, I mean, I think everybody's watching all the games now, Champions League, EPL, that if you came to my home, I mean, where, you know, around this time, the males have the remotes, you know. No, if you came to my home now, I mean, you watch all the operas. All my TV is actually on either CNN or, I don't want to mention your station so that you feel good. You know, but Joy News or something, to be honest. I'm not very crazy about football. And it helps me because then you get to know a lot about the players. You know, this is what they can do. Purely medical. We're proud, if I should speak tree. But then if the player is injured, he's injured.
Wow.
And I've seen people come in, slot in, take opportunities, and they make big names for themselves. If you remember a player called Atama, Joseph.
Yeah, Atama Lawe.
Atama Lawe came and replaced. We went for a tournament where a player got injured. We had to replace, and Atama traveled. Atama was part of the team and was dropped. And then this opportunity came. He came, and that's it. That's how Atama got his international exposures. So, yeah.
You're more of the medical person. You don't care what happened to the technical aspect of it. You don't want to attach emotions.
Exactly, that's the word. No emotions, no favorite players, nothing. Very indifferent about it. I'm very emotionally attached to my sick clients that I see in my day-to-day practice. Yeah. That for sure. But when it comes to the football aspect, no.
Because it's an emotional game.
If you don't guard your heart and you get emotionally attached, then it will reflect in the work you do. You find yourself praying that this player should not be injured, this one, but it's 90 minutes on the pitch of play. Everybody can do it.
What were the experiences in Qatar 2022 working with these players? So
Qatar was, if I should use the word, very disciplined camp. Every player comported himself, did what technical people wanted them to do. I'm sure you didn't hear of any controversies in camp.
I mean, the medical aspect.
And on the medical aspect, at a point, I mean, Otto and his team were like, okay, how did you do it? Because we had a very clean sheet. Prior to every single game we played in Qatar, of course, we played just 3 games. Yeah. But prior to all 3 games, we had 100% sheet for him to pick his players from. But of course, that will also be appreciating the work of my other members, Dr. Corte, the lead physiotherapist, SK Ankama, Carlos, Benjamin. These were guys who came to help, and everybody worked, plus our dietitian Renee and those who did the physical training, Romeo and all the guys, you know. So, and of course the coaching staff. When you have coaching staff who understand the scientific aspect of the game, it makes it very easy for you. So when you tell coaches that, you know what, this player cannot train today, they will understand you. This player can train today, they will understand you. Let's give this player the biggest exposure, match day -2. Okay, but match day -1, let him sit out. All right, they will give him the next exposure at the games itself. So when you have that collaboration, perfect. And I thought Qatar was a good one.
Now let's come back to the Confederation of African level. You mentioned something quite interesting in the early phase of the conversation, where you said that statistically, many African players often have this sudden cardiac arrest. Yeah. Why so?
Right. So the study I did, and then of course from what other people had done in my literature search, confirmed that. So what I found from my study was the fact that our black African players had exaggerated response to physical activity. Now, every sportsman or woman.
When you say exaggerated,
exactly. So I explain that. So every sportsman or woman or any individual, once you are involved in physical activity, sports, running, anything, the heart puts on a bit of muscle. So just as if I go to the gym and work my muscles, they become bulky. If you are involved in sporting activities, the rate at which the heart will contract and relax to pump blood to the rest of the body, it does it more. All right, then the left side of the heart, called the left ventricle, gets thicker, and then plus other physiological changes when that happens. So the study we did confirmed that when two players, one, let's say a British, and then a Ghanaian or Nigerian, they are exposed to the same level of training and everything, the heart of the Ghanaian or the Nigerian will be bigger compared to that of the British or the German. We saw this clearly. So we call that exaggerated physiological response to physical activity. Now this is the catch. When that happens, there's a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is one of the key conditions that will predispose players to suffering cardiac arrest. Now, when our players develop these big hearts, it makes it look like a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, because that is how the disease condition also makes the heart look like.
Oh, okay.
Now, then we...
So is it our genetic makeup?
It's a genetic predisposition. That's the key word. So it puts our players in a zone where we call, there's a diagnostic challenge. There's a diagnostic dilemma. So if I did pre-competition medical assessment and I saw that kind of heart, I'm quick to say that, oh, okay, because it's probably a black African player, that's it. Yeah. So the motivation to dig slightly deeper to see whether this is a disease condition becomes very tricky. All right, and then the only time you might have some obvious manifestations of it will probably be an arrest. But like I said, the bottom line is a genetic predisposition causing this. And just recently, 2 weeks ago, I was in South Africa for a CAF doping control officer training, and I met an interesting lady who does genetics. Okay, I think she's from Egypt, and that's her specialty. All right, so we've started discussions. We say, no, so we are now going to look for that genetic thing. All right, yeah. So we are going to, so what I'm going to do is to get samples from some of our players here with exaggerated response, get the samples, and then of course she will also get samples from the North Africans, because the North Africans, cardiovascular wise, are just like the West.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we're going to do that. Then we will take it to the lab and do the genetic testing to see what genes really code for this particular exaggerated response. It's going to be very expensive. Fortunate thing is this lady already has some funding.
Oh, okay.
And we're just going to slot it in as part of the. So those are the things we are looking at. So that is actually what happens. Plus the fact that we don't normally do early screenings. So if you go to the UK, for instance, they have something they call cardiac risk in the young. Okay, so kids in primary schools get screened. So at that early age, when they screen, they are able to see that, okay, this child has some predisposition to developing cardiac problems in future. So that child is even discouraged from football or sports. But okay. In our case, we don't do early screenings. So by the time you are picking something that looks like a problem, the guy is coming to play under 17. The guy is coming to play under 20. Okay, the guy is coming from a very deprived area around Nsoko Banda, okay, and then has a breakthrough to a national team. The confidence to rule that player out isn't there. So you are tilted towards, in quotes, overlooking. So, oh, he's fine, because the player is fine. Okay, then by the time you want to go into it, so it's more difficult to tell a professional player that has had problems, stop playing. You know of stories. We have told some to stop playing and they couldn't be stopped.
I remember recently when you even spoke to my colleague Gary on our platform.
Raphael.
Yeah, on Raphael.
Yeah.
And you were advising him to stop playing.
Yeah.
I don't know. When he didn't stop, and sometimes when players do not take this advice that comes from doctors? How difficult is it for you people?
It's not difficult because we can identify with them. It's not difficult because we can identify with them. I mean, the person is at his career. Okay, this is all the person does. Okay, the person should stop and do what? These are the questions they have to answer. Okay, so we don't feel that, oh, I've advised him and he didn't take it, so I'm hurt. No, you just still have to keep pushing and coming up with options. And so, okay, so if you don't even want to stop, there's this option. Let's try this. Maybe stop playing for a year or two. Let's do this. Because science keeps changing. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Just to get the confidence of the... I mean, so Raphael, at the end of the day, had an ICD put in there. Although that ICD for me wasn't meant for him to use to play, to be honest, because his condition was quite severe. So the ICD was there for him to live a normal life. Okay, but then the ICD, he still kept playing with the ICD. Then where I just have a big problem is when he even decided that the ICD should be off, and then he played without it. You know, so that's what we do. So we don't feel, maybe the settings within which I work, I don't feel disrespected by a player or my patients. I mean, this is Parliament. Okay, my patients are members of Parliament that I see on a regular basis. Okay, they are as difficult as football players. You know, I mean, people have to be compliant with their medications and all of that, all right, and they are not compliant. What right do you have as a doctor to be angry that a patient is not taking his or her medications? You know, put yourself in somebody's shoes. Somebody can say, oh, take medicines all your life. Who wants it? There are doctors who are non-compliant with their drugs as well. So, yes, or you slap it on someone, don't eat sugar, don't eat salt, don't eat meat. Why is the person living then? You are living, you can't eat sugar, you can't eat salt, you can't eat meat. Then the person comes to your room for a review. Maybe the person's cholesterol is gone up a bit, sugar is gone up a bit, BP gone up a bit, and you are angry. And I told you don't eat salt. Why did you eat salt? I told you don't eat sugar. Why you are eating? Muftau. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No salt, no sugar, no meat.
In fact, they will add no Maggi.
Exactly. Why are you living then? You know?
Yeah.
The only one I think they don't tell is don't go close to your wife. You know, then that one I'll just tell you, give me the final P, let me die.
The balance of science and religion.
It's a tricky one. Okay, it's a tricky one. So what I do, or what I think people should do, is to always get to understand what informs people's decisions. Doctors are very religious as well. Okay, so if you understand where people are coming from, then you appreciate their actions. Yeah. Okay, then it becomes negotiation for me. That's what I do. You need to negotiate with the person. Don't try so hard to condemn what the person believes in, but you should market what you are suggesting to the person. Tell the person, let's give it a try. It might work. We've tried this. And sometimes go within what the person believes in so much, and maybe the solutions are there also. Modify for the person. You know, so for me, that's what it is. By the end of the day, you would have to admit that people are different. I've had a player who had an ankle injury, painful. This player will not take any tablets. Painkiller, no, he won't take it because painkillers have side effects. So how would the injury go? How would the pain go? You know, so as a doctor, what do? Is just popping in tablets the only way to kill pain? No. Although it would have made my work easier and more sleek. So then you look for the other options. When the player goes on and on, it's not kind of say, okay, maybe just try this for me. You try it and then you keep going. I mean, so really it's just about negotiations.
this one is more of a psychological thing than.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how life is. Yes.
It's all a psychological thing.
Yes.
I remember in 2013, 2014, I was at the Accra Sports Stadium when a Ghana Premier League player had this cardiac arrest here. And if you were not there, the worst could have happened.
I remember, yes. Yeah.
You remember that so well?
Yeah,
right.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
If you look at our football setting, what are some of the loopholes that we will need to fill, considering the fact that we do not have the resources that many of these well-developed countries have got and can handle some of these situations? What are some of the loopholes that we will need to fill in our football space in order to be able to keep some of these things?
So I think it's a question we should even throw to the country as a whole. You know, so when people talk about, oh, so football, we don't have this at our stadia, we don't have AEDs, we don't like defibrillators, we don't have that. So yes, I mean, if you go to other public buildings, if you go to the National Theatre, do you see an AED there? Maybe no. If you go to the conference center, which is across the street, are there AEDs there? No. All right. So it's the level of football and whatever we see in our sports reflects where we are as a country. So normally when you see things that way, you wouldn't kill so much than to want to join to help. Now, from the medical side, what some of us started way back this 2020, 2013-ish and all that, you remember before every season, we used to organize workshops for the medics with the various clubs, Division 1, 2, and the Premier, where the physios, the masseurs, and the doctors, we gather all of them at the FA, and we go through trainings, emergency CPRs and all. We did that. Now how we do it is we do it more like school. So the GFA has collaboration with the University of Ghana now, where they train physios and masseurs in these areas, and I teach on that course. I teach the emergency medical aspect, how to do that. So I think that's the right way to go about it. People say, oh, about not all the clubs have doctors. Of course, how many doctors do we have? In my district, Bambo, you can count them. Okay, so if football teams don't have doctors, we can't complain. All right, the teams are not resourced enough to be able to pay a doctor decently. So what do? Those they can afford, the masseurs they can afford, we take them and we train them to do what we feel they should do. Then the other thing is to plead with the owners of the clubs to at least increase the investment when it comes to the medical aspect. So if your masseur or your physio says, oh, we need to buy ankle tapes, all right, to be able to tape their ankles for them to play, to prevent ankle injuries, because our pitches are not good. If you ask me, one thing I feel should be corrected or we should improve on when it comes to our sports in this country, I wouldn't mention provide AED, I'll tell you fix all the pitches. Because close to 90% of the injuries we see in our league would be as a result of the bad pitches the boys play on. And then probably the remaining percentage will be substandard officiating, all right? Because certain dangerous tackles that should be punished are left unpunished. Then players will repeat them and then injure other players. And then the pitches. If you fix these ones, I think the work of the medics would be better.
The work of the medics would be better.
Yeah.
Just open up the conversation.
Yeah.
But what do you say to people who have this belief that our national teams need team psychologists?
100%. 100%. And we've had that, and
that was 2014.
Yes, Prof. Menta has been, and Prof. Menta is actually a member of the technical department of the FA. And what people don't have to also forget is the training of most of the coaches also would have some psychological aspect to this, and some of the team doctors also would have access to clinical psychological support. Okay, so we would have colleagues that we discuss our psychological difficulties with. Oh, so you can ring a friend. So, okay, so I have this player going through X, Y, Z. This is it. So, yes, there is the need to have clinical psychologists as part of the technical team. I think what people don't get right is that this kind of support, is it supposed to be in person, sitting on the bench? Then that one, it comes to the area of budgets, which would not be a decision for the ordinary.
Yeah.
So do we have remote access to it? And I have had the opportunity to speak with people with the Ghana Psychological Council and say, you know what, put together a proposal, write to the sporting federations, write to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and make a case. And I think all other things will be factored in. You know, I remember teams used not to have doctor, physio, and masseur. I mean, those ahead of us, Dr. Engman and Co will tell you.
Yeah.
It was just a doctor.
Yeah.
The first time Dr. Engman, and I remember he told me this story, the first time he pushed that, no, just a doctor wouldn't work. We need to have a physio that I can work with. You know what they did? They brought a physio and then they took him out. There was a particular match they were going because he had pushed the authorities that, no, I can't work alone, I need a physio. They brought in a physio, and when the squad came, those traveling, it was just one match, those traveling came, his name wasn't there. So, oh, doctor, you said you can't do it, so we brought somebody. He said, that's fine. So they went for that particular game with only the physio and came back. You know, and of course he rejoined the team. You know, that's how come then we started having. It starts from somewhere, you know, and that's it. So yes, it's an important role we need in every team setting.
Doc, let's wrap up with basic first aid for many of our sportsmen when they get minor injuries. And your area that you spoke about passionately, which is the cardiac arrest. What are some of the basic first aids that we would need during games when such situations come up?
So when it comes to sudden cardiac arrest, you are not even thinking first aid. We're thinking basic life support, advanced life support. So when it comes to sudden cardiac arrest, we actually talk about prevention. What can you do to prevent it?
Oh, okay.
All right, what can you do? So first I say to people, listen to your body as a player. When you realize that, look, I'm able to train 50 minutes, 60 minutes without getting tired. But I've just realized that these days when I train for 25 minutes, I get tired easily. Speak to a doctor. You need to, just this morning, I've seen a young chap, okay, I'm sure a sports person, and I did ECG for the person's heart, and I realized there's a problem. Because the person gets tired easily. So we have to go further and do echo and then investigate to see what the problem is. So when you easily get tired, begin to ask yourself questions, speak to your doctors. If you feel dizzy easily, begin to ask questions. If you begin to feel funny in the chest, some chest pain, begin to speak to doctors. When you are playing a particular game, you started so well, but you realize that probably at some point in this game, I start feeling very light, very faint. Just sit down, lift your hand, let them zap you. Don't push yourself through. These are all red flags. So the area of sudden cardiac arrest, because if you wait and collapse in this country and you are not lucky, 90% chances you die. Because you are not likely to have the right people seated. I mean, you just mentioned the issue at Accra Sports Stadium.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was there.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was an ambulance. Fortunately, there was an AED.
I remember when you asked everyone to go back.
Exactly. Fortunately, I knew how to use that AED. I remember we took that person, I gave the person the first shock in the ambulance on our way to Rage Hospital. We got to Rage Hospital. I had to leave the AED we had there for them to continue because it was difficult to locate an AED within the Rage Hospital as at the time, not today. Now it's quite common. Okay, so those are the things. With the other injuries and all that, I mean, we know the basic things. Once you have an injury whilst playing, first thing, ice. If you can't continue, don't continue. First thing, do icing, come out of the game. Your muscles can do what they have to do, but quick enough, do basic things. Try to always investigate every injury. At least do an x-ray. If an x-ray is not showing anything, it doesn't mean there's no injury. Maybe it's soft tissue. And soft tissue, you can only see it with either MRI or CT, and it takes money.
You said something that's quite scary, that in this country, if you have a cardiac arrest, you might die.
You should choose where to have a cardiac arrest.
But you can't choose. I don't want to determine where you are going to get a cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Doc, any final comments you would want to share with us?
Just to say thank you so much for the session, and to tell every Ghanaian, every sports-loving person that we don't need to give up on sport development. It takes all of us to support, and to the owners of our federations, the owners of various football clubs. Football is expensive, sports is expensive, and to corporate Ghana, they should turn an eye on the various sporting clubs and support with sponsorship. No. That's the only way we can develop.
I said that was the last thing, but we are going to Africa Cup. What would it mean for Ghana to win the AFCON?
What would it mean for Ghana to win the AFCON? Nothing. It would we just have to play well and do our best. Take one game at a time. It's not going to be a miracle for Ghana to win the AFCON. After all, we've won it a number of times. We have been finalists a number of times. We've been semi-finalists a number of times. So really, it's just recent happenings that probably get people feeling that it's a Herculean task for Ghana to win the AFCON. But really, what are the clubs coming? There's Cape Verde, there's Senegal, there's Cameroon, there's Equatorial Guinea. One team will win. There's Ghana, there's Ivory Coast, there's Nigeria. One team will win, and it can be Ghana. Our boys are playing out there, scoring week in, week out. So we should just pray for the best.
Especially for your area, for injury-free.
Exactly. Yes.
Dr. Prince Pambo, my guest on Prime Take. Doc, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having
grateful.
me. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. This has been Prime Take. We appreciate your time. Continue to enjoy the rest of our programs here on the Joy News channel.